Hello, saints and scholars. Let's launch today by asking that tough question: who authored the books of the former prophets? This, truth be told, it's a tough question, and I'm afraid it's probably not going to have a very clear answer. The reality is these books are very, very old and don't have a clear history we can point to where we can note who the author is. This does not diminish their historical veracity, as we have literally tens of thousands of writings from this period of the world that do not have authors within them. But it is still worth asking how and why and who composed these works. While we can't answer them definitively, we can make some points about the writing of the former prophets. Let's look at 3 points related to the former prophets. Point number 1. The books are anonymous. At no point within the former prophets do any of the books make a claim that they were exclusively written by any one author. Any claims to the contrary are based on tradition as opposed to actual historical analysis. Point number 2. Within the text, there are hints that the main characters had a hand in writing these books. Let's look at some examples together.
And Joshua recorded these things in the book of the law of God. Then he took up a stone, set it up there under the oak near the holy place of the Lord.
This verse could not be used as evidence for Joshua actually composing the book of Joshua, but it does show Joshua left behind a written record of his escapades and works while he was ruling over Israel. Even though the book of the law of God has been lost to history, it is quite likely that those composing the book of Joshua at a later date had access to this first-hand account. Therefore, even though Joshua did not have a hand in writing the book of Joshua, his first-hand account probably played a massive role in its composition. In the book of 2 Samuel chapter 20 verses 24 and 25, we see King David had hired a recorder and a secretary, which means he kept extensive records of his time as king. Within the scriptures, there are 15 references to the annals of the kings of Judah. These are likely first-hand court documents written by the kings during their reign. While these works have been lost to history, they seem to be so familiar to the author and their original audience that they were likely very accessible at the time, making it very likely that the author of Kings had access to the material written from a first-hand account. Point number 3, there are portions within the text that would point to a later editor adjusting these books. First, we see the use of the phrase "to this day" repeated throughout the former prophets. This seems to be written by someone from a later time period, connecting the events of the former prophets to their present time. We also see the phrase repeated in the book of Judges: "In those days Israel had no king." This was likely written by someone from the monarchical period, writing an apologetic work of the need for Israel to have strong kingly leadership. This is someone from a later date looking back at the failures of the judges and concluding it was due to the people not having a monarchy. Finally, we see in 2 Kings 18-20 and Isaiah 36-39 that both texts are so word for word similar they had to be pulling from the same source. This shows that one of the texts, likely the Book of Kings, was edited later by taking sources from another source in order to elucidate the historical event. I know we desperately long for some concrete answers and kind of an anchor where we can put our faith in this whole process, but sometimes all we can do is be good historians, take all the information that we have and make the best conclusion we possibly can. So, who wrote the former prophets? You decide.